Today we're going to talk about pitching and conveying your idea to the external world. What I want to talk about is the way in which social entrepreneurs need to master this very intricate skill of convincing people that their idea has merit. So let's start with the basic ingredients of a good pitch, a good sale of your idea to the external world. It has to at least do three things. It has to say who you are, what you're doing, and why the world should care. Let's drill down on that. When it comes to you need to introduce yourself in the pitch. You need to say why you're qualified to do this and who you know and who you are positioned in this field around. You need to situate yourself so that people understand your relative contribution to this field, where you come from and where you're going. Second, you need to explain the pain point. You need to explain why there's a problem out there and how your solution is going to address it. It'd be also useful at this part of the pitch for you to say something about what's innovative, what's different about what you're proposing to do. Finally, when it comes to why we should care, you need to say something about how you have results and how this is going to change the world and how it's going to affect the person you're speaking to. You need to make a connection and convince them that they should care about what you're doing. So if you introduce yourself, explain what you're doing, and tell the people why they should care, those are the key kind of elements of a pitch. Let's talk a little bit about the voice and the way you can convince people that your idea has merit. I think there are basically three voices, three languages, three modes of communication for pitching an idea. The first is an emotional appeal. Here you're appealing to people's sense of caring, their sense of compassion, their sense of wanting to help people. You're going to try to present your idea in a way that will evoke in other people strong emotions so that they step forward to help, either in the form of volunteering or giving or providing support to your organization. So emotions are very powerful, and if you can key those and bring those out in people, you're going to be successful in convincing them to get behind you. But there's a second type of messaging, and that's around a rational message. And a rational message says, no, we're not going to worry about emotion. We're going to worry about why this idea works. What about it makes it very effective? What is the technocratic explanation for why this idea is going to innovate and make social impact? Rational claims are very powerful with certain audiences, particularly institutional funders, government agencies. They don't really want an emotional appeal. They want a rational appeal. They want to know why this will work. So you have to use that voice in certain contexts that are different than the emotional appeal, which might work very well with individuals. Finally, there's a third voice you can use, and that's the voice of moral reasoning and moral claims. You can make the argument that people should help because it's the right thing to do, that getting behind your cause is the morally right cause of action. That's a different argument, and it has a powerful appeal with certain constituencies. But here's the big takeaway. None of these voices is always right. It depends on the audience you're speaking to. In some cases, you're going to need to connect to people's emotions. In other cases, you're going to need to make an effectiveness claim that bowls over an institutional funder. And in another context, you're going to need to speak in broad moral imperatives. So know your audience and know which voice to use. Let's talk a little about presentations. Presentations are boring. Long lectures, long descriptions, long analyses of what you're doing, that tends to put people to sleep. In your pitch, you need to connect to people by showing them that there are actual people involved, that there are human beings that are affected, that are shaped by what you're planning to do, that the stakes are high because human lives are involved. To the extent you could go away from organizations and broad theories and drill down to people, you're going to catch your audience's attention and you're going to grab them. Think about the idea of conveying a story. When you pitch your idea for social impact, try to put it in the form of a story, something that has a kind of a shape to it, a way in which people are drawn in. Facts don't capture people's attention. Long lists of facts are not going to get your audience excited. A story that draws people in, that can be very powerful. So what goes into a story? A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Typically, a good story has a call to adventure, an invitation for the audience and for the person you're speaking to kind of get excited. Then there's a middle moment in the story where there's a problem, a fork in the road, a big decision that has to be made. And then finally, there's a resolution and a call to action. So a good story has different kind of moments. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you need to design your pitch so it has something of an arc like that. Drama is everything. You need in your story to introduce a hero, someone, a client that you're helping, someone out in the world whose life is going to be profoundly affected by what you do. You need to explain how they encountered a roadblock, how your program helped them get through and emerge transformed. The hero is a key part of a good pitch. It has to be someone that they can connect to, the audience can understand and connect to. You can be part of this process, but you need to bring people in by connecting them to someone that they care about. So you're thinking, this guy's talking about stories. He's talking about drama. What does this really mean? How do I use all that to really convince people that I have a powerful idea for social impact? Let's get a little bit more down to the nuts and bolts of pitching. You need three things in a pitch. You need a problem statement that says there are certain causes to a problem, there's a certain size and dimension to a problem, and there's certain consequences to a problem. And then once you kind of define the world and the problem that you're going after, and you explain to people its dimensions, its consequences, and its causes, then you're in a position to do the next thing, which is to say, here's my solution. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to work, how the program itself will operate, and I'm going to define for you what success metrics actually look like. If you do that, if you convince people that something matters, you get them on board, you show them a problem and a solution, you're going to make people pay attention. You're going to draw them into what you're interested in. So finally, the last element of pitch is this question of making it matter, raising the stakes. You need to show that your idea has the power to impact real lives and maybe even change communities. That has to be a critical part of what you do. You have to find a way to convince people that the stakes involved are high, that this is not just one more request for help, one more request for funding and support. You need to raise the stakes. So let's review. A good pitch has a pain point, a problem, an issue that you're going to tackle. It has an explanation of why your solution is better, cheaper, faster than anything else out there. You need to explain why what you're proposing stands out in the complex, busy marketplace out there of solutions, why your proposed course of action is different and better. You need to make the case that you have an idea for which there actually is demand, that there are actually clients and customers out there who want what you have. That's an absolutely essential part of a pitch, is to convince people that there's real demand and that you're responding and meeting that critical demand. And finally, you need to convince people that you, of all people, are the person who's most ready, most qualified to take on the challenge. You have a good pitch. You've developed it over time. You've practiced it. You've positioned it against different audiences. You've tried different approaches depending on the audience you're going to speak to. Then you get to the point of, now I need a plan. I need a venture plan. I need a document I can follow up with. That once I make that pitch, I need to be able to go to people and say, look, I have a way of doing this. I have a way of explaining this that looks and feels and is systematic. And that's the venture plan. So what goes into a venture plan? Let me just briefly outline these elements. First, I want to see in a good venture plan at the start a value proposition. What is it that you're going to do? How are you going to create value? Why do you have a real solution to a real issue at hand? Second, a clear statement of the scope of the problem that you're going after and its causes. Something that says you understand the domain in which you're operating. Then give me a logic model, an intended impact model, a sequential claim about how you're going to get to social impact. Then I want to see in your venture plan a market analysis. I want to see that you've looked outside, you understand what else is out there, and you understand how big and how complex the market is that you're going to work in, and you have some sense of what you're getting yourself into. I want to see you drill down in terms of the target segment, that group, subgroup of the population out there that you're going to reach and you're going to aim your efforts at. I want to understand your competitive position. I want you to use that competitive matrix. I want you to set up a claim that you have a place in the market that's distinct, that's better and stronger than other competing organizations. I want you to explain also a marketing plan and how you're going to reach customers, how you're going to get the word out. You've got to be able to convince people that you have not just something of value, but a plan to get it out into the world where people can see it and use it. I also want to see in a venture plan a good financial analysis of what the business model is, how much money is needed to make the thing go, how the revenues will be generated, what are the core costs. I want to see a nice simple statement of the financial model that's going to drive the enterprise. Give me also, after that, your performance metrics, your way of knowing whether or not you succeeded or failed. Give me a set of metrics that you think are manageable and indicative of success, so we can all agree on where this is heading and how we know if we've done what we said we were going to do. And then finally, at the end, tie it all together with a strong summary of the case. If you do all these things, if you build a strong pitch and you put behind it a well-conceived venture plan, you're going to be a long way towards the goal of convincing people to support your vision of social impact.